Have you ever been taken for a walk in the woods or the park or the countryside when no one else is around, when the trees and the plants seem to be so quiet that you can't even talk? That's the time to listen and watch. And then, quite suddenly, you realize there is quite a lot of noise. But not the kind of noise that you hear in the town, the bustling of people and cars and lorries. You listen. What can you hear? I can hear the birds singing. And what's that? That. It's a woodpecker pecking away at the bark of a tree, looking for food. And I can hear the wind rustling the leaves on the branches. And if I stand very still, perhaps I might see some of the animals that live here. Look! What's that? It's a squirrel. Do you know, everything that lives here needs everything else. The animals need the plants, and the plants need the animals. It's all like links in a chain, or parts of a circle. But you know, I wish I knew the names of everything. I know the name of that tree over there. It's the horse chestnut. Can you see the flowers? They're shaped like candles. And do you know what the flowers turn into? They turn into conkers that you can play with. I know what these are. I bet you do too. They're bluebells. But these aren't bluebells. They're blue shoes. And they belong to David Bellamy.
Hello.
Great to see you, David. You're just the person we need to help us understand all the things that live and grow here.
Goodness, well, I'll try and do my best. And let's start with the things round my feet, the beautiful bluebells, which you said everyone knows. Now, you know, the blue makes the flowers look beautiful, but that's not the most important colour. In fact, the most important colour for all plants is the green in the leaves. You know, green leaves there, green grass. In fact, can you think of a plant which doesn't have green leaves? There are very, very few. Now, the green is important because that helps the plant to collect the sun's energy it needs. Now, bluebells have problems. You know, we all have problems in living. Well, so do plants. And bluebells have a special problem because they live in woodland, you see. And when the leaves have come out on the trees up above, of course, the poor old bluebell's going to be living in dense shade and it won't get enough sunlight. So, of course, that's why the bluebell pops up very, very early in the spring and gets all its flowering and fruiting done before the leaves come on the tree. And then it stores the energy away down under the ground and then virtually goes to sleep for the rest of the year. Rest, and next spring it will pop up again using the energy and make our woodland beautiful. And that's just the start of the story about woodland.
Well, you go on telling us about things like that, and I'll go and draw some of the things I don't know the names of.
OK, now that's a very, very good example. See, draw. If you want to find out things about plants, don't pick them, draw them. And while you're drawing, be careful, don't kneel on them.
OK.
Well, I don't know what Tony's found, but I found a sycamore tree. Now, sycamores can tell us an awful lot about this light and shade business. If you ever looked at the top of one closely, now, there are the new leaves coming out. The two youngest, the next two, and so on. Now, see how they're beautifully arranged. And they're arranged so that when the light shines down on it, each leaf gets as much light as possible, because light, remember, is the energy which allows the plant to grow. Now, all that energy, of course, goes into the plant, and that means there's food. That is, I'm only eating myself superfood for other animals. And if I'm lucky, I may be able to find something which is actually eating green leaves. I say, that's a bit of luck. Two beautiful snails. Now, not your common old garden snails, but these are the banded snail. You can see how they get their name. I like calling them the Sergeant Major snail with its stripes round the shell. They are crawling round as fast as they can, looking for the energy. And just you imagine if you had to carry your house round, you'd need a lot of energy. Now, you get your energy from the food you eat. Well, of course, so do the snails. They're going around and they're eating the leaf. And you see, this leaf up here, that one, it's all been chewed away. So all that has gone in as food, energy into the snails to allow them to rush about and do their own particular thing. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful, you know, to have eyes on stalks like they've got so you can see round the corner and see where your next meal's coming from? But of course, now the snail represents a store of energy for any other animal that can come along and crack the problem of getting it out of its house. One thrush using a stone as an anvil to crack open his dinner. Of course, you're going to be blooming lucky if you actually see the thrush at work. And of course, that's part of the excitement of a walk in the forest. You never know what you might find. But with a little bit of knowledge, you see, it can help you to, you know, read the story of the forest for yourself. Now, yeah, look, there's a thrush's anvil. Oh, yes, you might say. Oh, an old bit of stone and a few broken shells. Now you're in the know, you can start to read the picture. It tells the story for itself. Now, there's one thing I've always wondered, and that's just how hard the old thrush has to bang the snail on his anvil to get in. So I'm going to try. I'm going to be a thrush and... No, I can't do it at all. That's real hard work. The shell's very, very tough. And, you know, it's a wonder all the thrushes don't have bent beaks, rather like mine. But no, they're experts at it, and they can get in. But I can tell you, it's going to take an awful lot of energy. So that means they really do need the food that's inside the shell. Another part of the food web, the energy web. In fact, whenever you take a walk in the country, you're surrounded by life. But also, unfortunately, of course, you're surrounded by death, because everything eventually has to die. And so you may find some things you don't really like to touch. But, you know, dead things can tell you a lot, even if you just take a close look. Now, here is a poor little dead bird. Now, I reckon that's a fly catcher. So it may well have visited the candles on the conker tree and eaten, you know, some of the flies and the other insects buzzing about there. But now it's dead, and down it goes, and the goodness from the little bird's body will go into the soil and help other plants and things to grow. Now, of course, before the goodness can be let out, the little bird has got to rot. Now, that creates a real problem, especially with the feathers, because they're made of real tough stuff. And they have to be, because they've protected the little bird throughout its life. But it just happens that living down in the soil are some very special plants that can break down even the tough feathers, releasing even that little bit of goodness back into the soil. And of course, if those special plants weren't living there, then what would happen? The whole of our countryside would be littered with birds' feathers. And the same goes for all the other litter which is produced by the plants and animals, the dead bracken from last year, bits of bark, bits of wood, and the leaves from the trees. You see, they come down and they would just collect there, but for the fact that in the soil there's a whole sort of litter brigade of tiny plants and animals living there, which slowly but surely break them down, returning all that goodness back to the soil. And it's not just the little things that get affected. How about this gigantic tree? He's super, all knobbly and grotty, but he's already too old and about to die. Now, all that's got to rot away, and you can see it's actually beginning to happen way up on the top there. Now, can you see those funny things up on the dead branch? Now, they're bracket toadstools, and they're actually eating away at the wood, using up the energy that's been stored in the wood and causing the branches to rot. So much so that the branches are already beginning to fall off. And there's one on the ground, and Tony's sitting on it. Get off me log.
Sorry, David. I've just been drawing that log.
Now, that's been made, you see, by a woodpecker. Now, the big bird came crawling up here when it was up on the tree down. Brrr, down he went looking for its dinner. And he was eating all the insects living on the soft wood in there.
Yeah.
OK, you see, and he's made other holes round about searching out his dinner, but that's where he got most of it from. Here we can see all sorts of other things living in. Look, there's a worm. Do you like? Do you like worms?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. Oh, look, you've drawn him already. What a smashing drawer, you see. Absolutely perfect. But you see, all those other insects and things, all living down, helping to break down the wood. And you see how beautiful and soft it is. And very soon, the whole log will disappear. In fact, in time, the tree will go. In fact, that great log, that great tree, will turn into soil. All the goodness back into the soil to help the plants grow next year.
Yeah.
So it's all part of that circle you were talking about right at the beginning of me walk. Now, what have you been drawing?
Well, I've drawn all these. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, but first I think I'll put the worm back now so he can go on doing his particular thing down there. Now, of course, I could put long names to each one of them, but I'm going to do something a bit different because you've done something very exciting. You've drawn the circle.
Have I?
The one I was talking about. Yeah, now let's see. Now, that's a leaf. It was
Yes.
green?
Yes, it was,
Yeah,
yes.
right, one green leaf. Got the energy of the sun in there, OK, and that's going to be eaten by the snail. Super snail, eyes on stalks, everything. Now, the snail into the bird. Now, that's not a thrush, is it?
Well, it was just sort of a little bird.
A little bird. Well, the bird eats a snail. And, of course, if it was a thrush, it'd have 40,000 feathers on it. And, of course, they've got to be rotted away. And look, you've drawn the toadstools and things, that wee, weird little plants which eat that up, OK? So it rots and down goes. And we've got other things, see, an ant and a worm, lovely creepy crawlies living down in the soil, the litter brigade. And, of course, they're putting all the goodness back in and allows the old bluebells to grow again next year. You see, so you've illustrated the cycle of nature. The only thing you haven't put in is me blue shoes.
David Bellamy made that into a really interesting story, didn't he? Well, Dave Arthur and I have written a song about all the things we've seen. Walking along, creeping along, move with a care. Looking around, what can it be there in the air? Bumblebee and butterfly, moth and wasp all hurry by. Busy buzzing, flitter-fluttering, dashing everywhere. Walking along, creeping along, what do you see? Looking around, what can it be? Leaf, bush or tree? Moss or primrose, purple heather, sycamore and elm together, dandelion and buttercup, all growing free. Walking along, creeping along, don't make a sound. Looking around, what can it be there on the ground? Frog or snail or slimy slug, bluebells near a ladybug. Many clues left in the earth, waiting to be found.